But to join the company of the gods is not permitted to the man who has not practiced philosophy, and departed this life in a state of perfect purity. It is permitted only to the lover of wisdom, and that, Simmias and Cebes, my dear friends, is why true philosophers abstain from all bodily desires. They stand firm, and do not give in to them. It's not because they have some fear of losing the family fortune, or being poor, as most people have in their obsession with money. Nor again do they abstain from bodily pleasures through fear of notoriety, or the reputation of living an evil life, like those who are eager for public office or public recognition. No, that wouldn't be the right motive, Socrates, said Cebes. Indeed it wouldn't. That's why those who care at all for their own soul, and do not spend their life moulding it to fit the body, forget about all these others. They set out by a different route from people who seem to have no idea where they are going. Their duty, they believe, is not to oppose philosophy or the release and purification it brings, and so, in their pursuit of it, they follow the direction in which it leads. How do they do that, Socrates? I'll tell you. Lovers of knowledge realize that philosophy finds their soul literally imprisoned in the body, glued to it, compelled to look at the things that are through the body as if through prison bars, as it wallows in total ignorance, unable to look at them all by itself. And it can see that the cleverness of the prison is the way it uses desire to make the prisoner, as far as possible, his own jailer. Well, as I say, lovers of knowledge realize that philosophy, finding the soul in this state, gently encourages it and tries to set it free. It points out that inquiry carried out using the eyes is fraught with deception, and fraught with deception likewise the ears and other senses. Philosophy persuades the soul to withdraw from these, except in situations where it has no choice but to use them. It urges the soul to collect and gather itself together by itself, and have no confidence in anything other than itself and the thoughts which it has, by itself, about any of the things that are by themselves. Anything it examines by different means, anything which is different in different situations, it should regard as without truth. This kind of thing is an object of perception and seen, whereas what it sees for itself is an object of thought and invisible. And this release, the soul of the true philosopher thinks, is not something it should fight against. This is why it keeps away from pleasures, desires, and pains as much as it can. Its reasoning is that when people experience too much pleasure, or fear, or desire, what happens to them is not the kind of minor evil you might expect as a result, falling ill, perhaps, or wasting money on the satisfaction of their desires. No, what happens to them, without their thinking twice about it, is the greatest and most extreme of all evils. And what is that, Socrates? The fact that no one's soul can feel extreme pleasure or pain over anything without at the same time being compelled to believe that the thing which occasions the pleasure or pain is outstandingly clear and true, when in fact it is nothing of the kind. This is particularly true of things which are seen, isn't it? Yes. Isn't it when this happens that the soul is most imprisoned by the body? Explain. Every pleasure and pain attaches the soul to the body with a kind of rivet, pinning it there, and making it like the body, with the result that whatever the body says is true, the soul believes it. The inevitable result, I believe, of having the same opinions as the body, and taking pleasure in the same things, is that the soul is forced to adopt the same nature and nurture. It is no longer capable of reaching Hades in a pure state, but must always be imbued with the body when it leaves here. So it quickly falls back into another body, like a seed being sown and growing again, and this stops it having any share in the company of what is divine, pure, and single in form. What you say is absolutely true, Socrates. That is the reason, Cebes, why true lovers of knowledge are well-ordered and brave. It is not for the reasons given by most people, or do you think it is? No, I certainly don't. No, indeed. A philosopher's soul will reason in the way we have described. It will not think both that it is philosophy's job to free the soul from the body, and that while it is doing so, the soul should of its own accord keep handing itself over again to pleasures and pains, and so bind itself to the body again, performing Penelope's endless task of undoing its own weaving. No, it provides a calm retreat from all this, by following reason and being always engaged in it. It keeps its eyes on what is true, divine, and not the object of opinion, and is sustained by that. It thinks that this is how it should live, for as long as it does live, and that when it dies, it will come to what is akin to itself, and be like itself, and be rid of human evils. With this kind of upbringing, Simmias and Cebes, there is no danger of the soul's being afraid that it will be torn to pieces in its separation from the body, that it will be blown away, disappear into thin air, and no longer have any existence anywhere. When Socrates finished speaking, there was silence for a considerable time. Socrates himself was absorbed in the argument he had just put forward, as far as we could see, and so were most of us. But Cebes and Simmias went on talking to one another, just the two of them, in a low voice. Socrates looked at them. "What is it?" he asked. "You don't think that there's some flaw in what we've just said, do you? I'm sure it's open to all sorts of doubts and objections for anyone who feels like going into it properly. If it's something else the two of you are wondering about, that's fine. But if it's something to do with our discussion that is bothering you, don't hesitate to say what you think, and give your own explanation, if you think it could be better expressed in some way. Or again, take me along with you as well if you think you'll get on any better with my help." "All right, Socrates," Simmias replied. "I'll be honest with you. For some while now, we've both been a bit unsure what to do. We've each been egging the other on and telling one another to ask you something. We want to hear your answer, but we are worried about upsetting you. It may be a bit unwelcome in your present predicament.